So one of the options you have when you begin your painting project is to choose whether or not you want to use Illustrator for your outlines for the project you are actually going to be painting in Photoshop. However, we do permit you to use Illustrator, Photoshop, or an iPad or tablet app to create the actual outlines. Now, when we create outlines, I just wanted to go over a couple things. You do want to make sure that the purpose of your outlines is to help you learn to paint in Photoshop. So although we do have some finishing touches, such as some of these outlines here, those are not necessarily necessary to get started with your painting. Those can be done in the beginning, but it's highly discouraged to get too detailed at this level. The things that we want to focus on are areas of large color that will allow us, once we get into Photoshop, to be able to select a path and then paint inside of it. So you can see all of these different shapes. They're all different closed paths. So once you have created your outlines, if you're deciding to use Illustrator, it is a little bit different. And I just wanted to talk about the process of getting outlines from Illustrator over to Photoshop. So the first option is you're going to choose to select all, which is Command A or Control A. If you cannot remember for some reason, you can go up to the select menu and it's right there as well. So we've got Command A, and then we're going to just choose copy. So you can either go to edit and choose copy, or the quicker way is Command C or Control C. And that's basically going to copy it from Illustrator, and then we're going to bring it over to Photoshop. Now there's a couple things I wanted to point out here. So I've got a file already opened, but let's say for instance I wanted to go and choose a new file. That new file by default is going to be the clipboard size of whatever the artwork is, and it's actually going to possibly change the resolution to something that you do not want. So if you are creating a brand new document in the future or for this project, anytime you copy something from Illustrator, it's copying it over at a similar pixel dimension that you drew it in Illustrator, and then the resolution may not be accurate. It may be based off of maybe the last thing you worked on. So obviously we do have a document already open, so we're just going to paste it here. Now to paste, you're going to go to Edit and Paste, which is Command V for a shortcut. So we'll just go ahead and say Command V. And this option right here pops up, and basically what this allows us to do is we are going to have a few options when we paste from Illustrator. So the big thing to note is that Illustrator is a vector-based program, so that allows us a lot of flexibility in sizing. So we're going to be able to scale up or scale down our graphics. However, you may possibly start working in Photoshop, and if you use pixels, it turns your vector-based graphic into a raster or a bitmapped graphic, and that will impact the resolution. So it is encouraged that you keep things as a smart object, because at any point if you need to increase the size, it stays vector and it will still allow you to scale up. Now Photoshop does allow you to scale things like pixels up, but just keep in mind anytime you increase the size of a raster or bitmapped image, it will decrease the quality, because Photoshop just can't figure out how to make perfect quality out of things that it increases the size of. And then we have the option for path. Now path acts a lot like the different paths you're creating in Illustrator, but it will not show you a visual outline of anything. And so basically all of your paths will show up in your paths panel, and it does still allow you to use those to help you select things. So keep that in mind, that that may be an option for you at some point. And then the shape layer is going to create a shape, or a layer that allows you to have shapes. So in most cases you're going to use Smart Object, but there are these other options for you. And then the last thing I wanted to point out here is this option here for Add to My Current Library. Now Adobe allows most people that have the subscription to use their cloud service, so you are able to check that box and it gets saved to your cloud library. If you're ever working in the lab and you have that checked and you're choosing something like Smart Object, it may actually complicate your ability to copy over from Illustrator. So it is encouraged in the lab to keep that unchecked. So we're going to go ahead and say OK. And what happens is it places it, and we have this little transform box with the X. That's basically giving you the opportunity now to transform it. Now it's essentially taking over like a free transform. And so keep in mind you can resize, you can rotate, all the same things that you can do with transformations. And then from there, our option is once we have it in place where we want it, we would just hit return and that X goes away. And you will notice right here that that little icon means that it's a smart object. So at any point, we can just basically double click and it's going to basically bring it back to Illustrator if we want. Okay, so it is encouraged for you all to use smart objects because we can again transform and increase the size, and it's keeping it a vector, so we're not losing any quality. Now the benefits to outlines is that we are able to use some of our different selection tools. So we have like our quick selection and our magic wand tool, and those usually do a really good job of selecting things that have a like a closed path or harsh black and white contrast. So when you are painting or creating outlines, if you keep the outlines in pure black, whether you're using Illustrator, Photoshop, or a tablet app, you are going to be able to easily select, and then from there we're going to be able to paint inside of it, which we will learn more in another lesson. So just keep in mind that these outlines are going to help you. You don't necessarily need to outline every little thing before you start painting, but it will help us paint things a lot quicker because we're going to be able to, and I'll just show you one real quick, we're going to be able to just easily dump color in certain areas and paint things, and then we can take our paint brushes in and add finishing details even further. So this will be a huge help to you all. Again, it's up to you. If you feel more comfortable in Illustrator creating outlines, we do permit outlines in any of the options we've provided. So Illustrator, Photoshop, or a tablet app. Our only request is that all other painting happens in Photoshop. So hopefully this helps you out. Just understand the process of getting something over from Illustrator.